There is a term, unceasing prayer. Many have heard it, few manage to understand it. You might think persons walk around just persistently chattering the traditional shopping list style of prayer that many engage with. Praying like this from a space of lack, it misses the point. The wholeness of unceasing prayer requires something that makes life wonderful. It makes life beautiful. But the majority of humans have a great fear that if they do it, they won't exist. They fear if they let go of the story, or stories, the narratives, the memories, the opinions, their emotional response to the world around them, that somehow all of a sudden they will no longer exist. And of course it's not true, because even if you let go of all of the things that you think you are, there is something left behind. Your body will certainly be there. Your breath will be there. But you'll find that inside that, what may look to many like an emptiness, is an arising of a wholeness, a completeness, a fullness. And that fullness yearns to move in silence. It yearns to move through this reality without opinions, without language, without memories, without stories that reinforce the person, without a search, without a belief, without a story that I am on the path to know God, without a story of I am searching and seeking and I will awaken at some point in the future. All very noble stories, but stories that create a separation from unceasing prayer. Stories that create a person inside you, and the noise of that person takes up the brain and its cells and the heart and its cells, and therefore the presence of God has no space to move. It may move in glimpses and glimmers. It may come forward in times of great emotion, or where you see persons in distress, and all that goes away. The story of you, its worries, its desires, you see that in that moment when someone needs you, they're meaningless and they go away, and you get these arisings in humanity, and it's beautiful that they come. But persons go back to the stories and the retention of the person, of the existence of the person, and it creates suffering, and it creates separation, and it creates a lessening of the vitality of the human and the bringing forth of God's love in unceasing prayer. Because unceasing prayer is to be alive to every single moment with your senses. Unceasing prayer is to be alive to as much of your day with your senses as possible. Not to fall into the story of the person, not to fall into the stories, whatever they are. I am on a path of a spiritual awakening. It's still a story. It's still the pursuit, a desire for something. And these desires are held by the separate mental identity, and they create the void, the separation from it. And so unceasing prayer is a heart that's illuminated into the moment, and a brain which is free of a story. It has no story. It's just there, arising. And in that arising comes the presence, and in that presence and connection comes a connection between the human vehicle and God that is so powerful and potent that you enter unceasing prayer. And your very movements through the world will convict people to be in a different way. You will enter a room and it will convict them of a need, a want to have something that is in this presence, and they don't know what it is. And they think, therefore, you will have answers for them and that you will be able to do it for them. And you don't. What you've got is an emptiness that has been filled with a pure, vibrant energy that is the presence of God, because you are walking in unceasing prayer. And that unceasing prayer will heal people around you. And in time, it will take you to various different places in the world or persons that need you, and records, memories will come from the human, and there will be a story. There will be a story of who you are. But that story will be lived from the nowness of the presence of God, the spontaneous arising of life. The story will not be something that is inside your mind separating you from the presence anymore. The story will be action. It will not be mind. The story will not be something you tell yourself. The story will be something that your body, your human vehicle is doing. It is a doing now. It's not a story you're telling yourself. It's not memories and images of who you are as you continue on that journey, your human body doing these things. It's the arising of a story of God's presence in a human, the Spirit in a human, and the Spirit's will through a human. And every human has a path. Every human has a walk with Spirit. Every human can do it in unceasing prayer. It might be business, it might be teaching, it might be something totally different, it might be a carpenter. But you will know it when you're doing it, because you will be lit up. And you will not consume, because as you consume, the vibration comes down, because consumption means there's very little space for presence. And so the unceasing prayer is a state of expansion, and consumption comes as a necessity to facilitate that expansive radius of God's presence and love coming forth from you. And so unceasing prayer should be the goal for all of us. And I am not sitting before you saying, I'm a man who's mastered this. I'm not sitting before you saying, I'm a man who unceasingly prays. Today I have been with my family, and it was difficult to be present in that sense and not to return to the story of a person and an image I hold of myself and an idea of who I am living this day. But as I come away and I take time as they go to bed, I return back and I see that I was still human, doing of the consciousness of the presence. It's only that while it was a doing, that I was telling myself a story that I am this, I am that. I am still that same arising in that unceasing prayer. It comes in so many forms. This is what we are doing here. The difference is, do you move in a state where it is your heart and the mind is still to absorb and record and not recall the arising of the person who is in presence? Or is the mind narrating? The unceasing prayer. It's to unite your whole body with the present moment and the love of God that arises there, instead of separating from it into the illusion of stories you tell yourself. And instead you return to that emptiness where the story of your life arises with a new vitality, a new vibrance, a new love. All of this that's happening, all the birds song, the trees moving, the cold biting at my skin. When you pray unceasingly, you become totally inseparable from it all. And only the interjection of a person who wants to throw something over it, some language, some memories, some opinion, can take you away from it. Only that. We create our own separation. And we yearn to be home. And all we had to do was stop telling ourselves stories and return to the home of the story of the human you are, that began when you were knit together in your mother's womb, and for many of us largely ended as we knit together a character and a persona that stopped trusting that which knitted us together and started trying to control. And feel tension around that, which makes us amnesic of the home that I feel right now, literally in the arms of God.